All right, guys. Michael, Drew from Second Swing, joining me again. 3 episodes. This is I don't know what they're thinking to let us go 3 episodes, but we're back.
Mates are running the asylum at GolfWRX.
That's right. So yeah, we've done. We're still talking 2023 GolfWRX Members Choice presented by Second Swing. If you haven't listened to it, we've done two previous shows. We did best driver, best irons, and today we're going to dig into fairways and hybrids. So it's going to be fun to kind of go through those. I know there's a lot of stuff on these two lists that I've hit personally, and excited to kind of get your thoughts as well on a lot of these great clubs, because there's a lot of good ones on here, and some. I think there's going to be, again, like the other two, some stuff that we all expected, and
Yeah.
maybe one or two that we don't. So.
Right. And I also wanted to because I think this part of the bag for a lot of amateurs is actually the toughest part to hit.
Yeah.
These shots are off the turf, not off the tee, and you get these de-lofted clubs so I mean, this is an important category that I think, we're not gonna, it's important not to gloss over for a lot of players what they do from 4-iron to driver, or 5-iron, whatever it might be. So this is an important one.
Yeah, there's also a ton of crossover between the two. Not necessarily all in the same order. There's kind of a shuffling between the two, but a lot of familiar names in both lists.
Yep, and it's interesting too, because I mean, nowadays, you guys must see it. A lot of your fittings and stuff like that, where fairways, the kind of the high lofted fairways, the 7, 9, even 11 woods now are starting to see kind of a resurgence. They kind of went away for a while when hybrids got big, but now we're seeing this comeback from, not only the player who needs height and needs a little extra distance, all that. Maybe you categorize it as maybe a little older player, something like that. We're talking highly skilled players putting high lofted fairways in the bag now, which is something that's kind of we haven't seen in a few years
on tour. I mean, you're seeing kinds of guys. I mean, depending on the week, depending on how firm the greens might be, for example. I mean, they're going to throw in the 7 wood. They're going to throw in a 9 wood. It's crazy to see it, but there's obviously a very functional use for them too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, like I said, fittings are definitely important in this part of the bag. Like you said, the gap from driver to 4 or 5 or 6-iron, whatever you have, can take a ton of different paths depending on your game, your needs, the gapping, your ball flight, all those things. So, yeah, you could find a combination of all fairway woods, all hybrids, a little bit of both. I mean, you never know. So, getting in and getting fit is definitely a kind of a priority at this part of the bag.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into fairways. We'll jump in there first, and we'll start again like we always do. We'll start with number 5, and we'll work our way up. So coming into number 5, the Callaway Paradigm. I was kind of shocked. I thought this was actually going to come in a little bit higher, but I've actually personally playing a lot of the triple diamond, but I've seen a lot of Paradigm fairways in bags with guys that I just get paired up with out on the course. It's been a really popular fairway wood from what I've seen just in bags of just kind of random players I play with.
Yeah, I think the last several series of Callaway Fairway Woods have been really, really hot and explosive. And that stayed true in Paradigm and in our testing and what we've seen in the fitting bays. They continue to push the envelope with what they're doing with AI and the design, both, on the interior, then with the face as well. Kind of refining that sort of jailbreak again this year. And clearly it's worked for them. So I'm with you in that I kind of expected it to be a little bit higher on the list, and it seemed like it has been to the general public, more of a favorite than where it landed on this list, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it, very shallow face, which I love, really good distance numbers. I think the adjustability was a big add-on versus Rogue. I wonder, there's kind of a shift in aesthetic, kind of almost a Zexio-like look to the club. Maybe that turned off certain people, but the performance is outstanding.
Yeah, and it's a very versatile wood. It's one of those ones that, like you said, Michael, it's got a shallow face on it. So if you need to hit it off the turf and still get it in the air, it's easy to do. But you can still hit it off the tee, on either shorter par 4s, really long par 3s, stuff like that. And I find it's just one of those fairways that's not pigeonholed as just a turf or just a tee type club. It can really be used for both.
Right, and that's the type of versatility that a lot of especially the better players out there with maybe some speed really need. And the Fairway Wood is a club that, if you have a driver that goes 280, 290, or even more than that, there's a lot of holes that you might play that you don't need all that distance up to. You might need to play something out there. And if it's functional both ways, that's very useful. And clearly the Paradigm is.
Yeah, and just to really hammer that shallow face, that's so confidence building for me.
Yeah.
I those kind of really tall faced fairway woods they just feel impossible to hit off the deck. And
Yep.
so you get so much versatility out of a club, kind of like the
You
Paradigm.
feel like you're going to catch that low face, kind of like finny feeling shot that spins
Right.
on. Yeah.
Yep, I'm with you because I'm a guy who struggles a little bit off the turf with a 3-wood, and for me it is more of a tee club. But yeah, with something that's got a really deep face, yeah, sure, it's great off the tee. But if you have to hit it into that par 5 or something like that, yeah, I'm the same way. I get a little shaky over a deep face fairway if I got to hit it off the turf.
Right.
The ball looks awfully small down there.
Yeah, exactly. I tend to get a little steeper on those shots. So then coming in at number 4, we've got the Titleist TSR3. So kind of the more lower spinning, a little lower launching than the 2. A little more adjustability though, in terms of having that adjustable sole plate. What are you guys seeing for fittings in the TSR3 on a fairway wood?
Yeah, I think there's a difference in sort of how the share, if you will, of fairway woods versus the drivers and the TSR2, TSR3. You're seeing a little bit more TSR3 fittings for driver, and then in the fairway woods, you're kind of seeing more TSR2. The TSR2 taking more of that share, it seems like, and the TSR3, not that it's not functional, it doesn't perform well, but that there's that adjustability and that low spin, that type of head seems to be less applicable out there in the fairway wood category. I think at least what we're seeing in the fitting. So a lot of for example, you might have a lot of players that have the TSR3 driver and then they get a TSR2 fairway wood in the bag to pair with that. I think you're seeing a lot more of that combo than the other way around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, hearing from fitters, I think there's a pretty big leap, TSR3 over TSI3. A pretty solid gain in distance, good ball speed numbers. That kind of 5-track adjustability is really solid. And, with Titleist, the sound and the feel is always great. But I think it is really interesting, the trend of the 2 and the 3 starting to kind of get kind of closer.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as wide, there's not a huge differential between the 2 anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's what I noticed kind of with the TSR3 this year when I got to go get fit at TPI was it was a great, I could hit it well. And, typically I'm a TSR2 type guy, but the 3 actually was forgiving enough where I could hit it. It just, unfortunately for me, didn't spin enough. And that's why it ultimately didn't make the bag for me. But in terms of the straightness and actually the ability to launch it, both of those actually worked really well for me, which, like you said, TSI, that was a little bit of a struggle. It was a little tough for me to get that in the air, where TSR was a huge improvement. And I was amazed at how much more forgiving it is for more of a player's focused fairway wood that it really is.
Yeah, I think moving forward, I do wonder where, with Titleist's future woods line, like how much more or less separated the 2 and the 3 models are going to be. I think they struck a pretty good chord with both the drivers and the fairways here, but then, which way are they going to go? Are they going to separate them back even more, or are they going to kind of continue to blend them together a little bit, where for the golfer it becomes more about preference of look and feel rather than maybe the performance, because the performance seems to be kind of coming together.
Really fun to watch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because you're right. Even if you look back driver days TSR4, how far it's come from the previous one. So,
right.
Like I said, the TSR3, and then we move into number 3, the TaylorMade Stealth 2 Plus, which I'm not shocked here. I know the Plus and the Standard, both of those are great fairway woods, and even the HD, depending on player. But that Stealth 2 Plus, there was just something when that thing came out, the huge movable weight in the sole, everybody was buzzing and talking about that. And from my experience, that weight does actually kind of change ball flight a good amount when you start messing with it. And it's, of course, TaylorMade fairway woods. They always have a great look to them, but tons of adjustability. It's just a really good long fairway wood, and I've enjoyed hitting it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in the initial testing with the 50 grams is a lot of weight forward, back in one kind of sliding port there. I don't even recall a fairway wood in my, right off the top of my head with a 50-gram weight that you can back. I mean, maybe there is one out there, and if I'm misremembering one, the comments can tell me. But 2 plus, I mean, we noticed it right away. We did some testing. You can almost have like a 2.5 wood moving it forward a ton, and then almost like a 3.5 wood when you move it all the way back. And just the change in the forgiveness, stability of the head, but also the launch, there's clearly noticeable on the track.
Yeah, and I think not only adjustability, but in its neutral setting, it's such a mid-spin, mid-launch club to me that it's such a wide-ranging option for golfers. They kind of market it as sort of that 3-in-1 club, and it really is. It's I think it's really aided by the fact that kind of no matter who you are, there's sort of something for you in that club.
Yeah, and of course, titanium face, titanium body, all those things. I mean, tons of ball speed. The one thing I do like about the Stealth 2 Plus is that when you go back to like, the OG titanium sim, was everybody loved it, but it was really low spin, really low launch, and unless you were a player who could launch it up in the air or you're only playing it off a tee, it just was kind of a demanding club. And I feel like the Stealth 2, and every iteration after so far, I feel like it's just been more playable. Like, you don't have to be a low single digit to play that club or hit a really high ball. Like these here, it's going to fit a wider range of players, and I think a wider range of players have found benefit from getting that distance and getting the forgiveness, and then being able to dial it in between hosel, soul weight, really dial it into to their game and their swing and what they need.
Yeah, I actually think I've seen a lot of actually the standard Stealth 2 and the Stealth 2 Plus, a lot of off contract players using that on tour, either one of those models, and which tells me it's a really really good performer for players and versatility. You can hit it off the tee and off the turf. So, but I just think the innovation TaylorMade went with, it's a kind of I feel like it was probably a risky move to whoever's idea it was to say, hey, 50-gram weight in this hole, we're going to go with that. And I know at first maybe there was a raised eyebrow or two in the room there, but they did a really good job assembling that and put it together.
Yeah, I believe this is the highest TaylorMade product seen in the Members' Choice rankings almost across every category. So, like you said, the risk paid off.
Yeah. I'm about to say the engineering that probably went into it is, I mean, I'm no engineer, but I got to believe it was a lot of hours trying to perfect that thing to make it durable, useful, everything. It just probably took a whole lot of man hours at a computer to get that thing dialed in right.
Right, and it's the tinkerer's dream fairway wood, right? Has to be.
Yep. Oh, exactly. I love when I first saw it. I was like, I couldn't wait to get my hands on it and hit it, and it was just, it didn't disappoint. And I think a lot of people found that, sliding that weight forward. It wasn't one of those. Every once in a while, you see some tech that you're like, okay, and you don't really notice a whole lot, and then this one, you definitely notice it, which was pretty cool.
Right.
Now we move to the top two, and I think one that I expected 100% to be very, very high on this list. Ping G430 Max. I mean, it's kind of become if you need help getting the ball in the air, you want forgiveness, all that. Ping is just the Max Series fairways have just been that for everybody. And I've been a big fan of a G430 Max as well. But I think, the improved sound, they look good, and they definitely are long now. Like, they're not lagging behind in the ball speed categories or anything, much like the drivers and stuff that we talked about in the previous shows. G430 Max is just a solid option, as a fairway wood.
Yeah, and speaking of off-contract, player using it, our guy Lucas Glover is still winning. 1 week later from when we recorded the last episodes, and he's still the most recent winner on the PGA Tour. He's got 2 in the bag. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, they've never been lacking in the forgiveness elements of any of their woods, and so that part is there. But you're right in that the ball speed seems to be catching up a little bit with the competitors. This is the same theme that we saw with the drivers this year in G430, and now in the fairway wood is there too. Spin consistency seems to be a real winner for golfers. I mean, that technology, it's not like it takes a rocket scientist to see that, hey, maybe a little bit of a loft change on the bottom, but to engineer it the right way and make it tweak it or that it is functional, and that miss hit low on the face can perform and not lose a ton of the distance out there is a big win for that. And I think we've definitely seen it in the fitting bays too.
Definitely. I think this is the most forgiving fairway wood in golf. It's another kind of shallower face. So it's, incredibly appealing to hit off the deck. I think the sound is improved, like you mentioned, Brian. That's always a topic of conversation. Ping. I think there's still a conversation to be had about, the visuals that might still just turn off people, kind of the sort of a busier top of the club. But in terms of the performance, it's hard to argue.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievably forgiving, and like you mentioned, the distance gains continue for Ping.
Yeah, and I think with the Max, even though it's got the Max name on it, which typically means maximum forgiveness and height and all that, being able to kind of set that adapter into some flat settings, some lower law flat settings, also it kind of still does appeal to that better player, who doesn't want to see a big draw or big hook, and they can set a little flat and maybe add a little bit more fade or a little more neutral ball flight. So it's not stuck as just a mid to high handicap player. Like you said, Lucas Glover's probably playing some of the best golf in the world right now. And, to have those in the bag, I mean, it shows that it's going to fit a wide range of golfers. If they walk into a fitting bay, it doesn't matter if they're scratch. It doesn't matter if they're a 20, they could find a G430 Max that might work for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, speaking of versatility, you said it right there. I mean, that the Ping's always been going after is, trying to hit the beginners to the tour pros. And I think the G430 Max definitely does that.
Yep. Yeah. And then we get to number one. I was a little bit shy to see this as number one. I knew it was going to be high. I knew it was going to be on the list, but the title is TSR2. And I have one. I've played a whole bunch with it, and it is just a really good, solid, versatile 3-wood that you can do a lot of things with. You can hit it off the deck, hit it off the tee, and it just does it all really, really well. What are you guys' thoughts on the TSR2 fairways?
Yeah, and again, not super like shocking, but I still would have maybe picked a couple others to finish ahead of the TSR2 here. But I think they've done a really good job of refining the aerodynamics, refining the look of it, and still producing a very high performing fairway wood that checks all the boxes, right? And I mean, we're seeing a lot of TSR2 fairway woods, like I mentioned earlier, kind of where the 3 versus the 2 and who's putting what in the bag. You're seeing a lot of 2 fairway woods in the bag for tour pros. Yep. Even so, there's kind of element of workability and getting the spin dialed in that the best players, the best swingers can even achieve with this club. So again, versatility's there, and then we haven't really talked yet in terms of the TSR3 or 2, but just how clean that thing looks at address too. I mean, same thing with the driver, same thing with the fairway woods. It's so clean, simple, and easy to look at.
It's gorgeous. The tour adoption is a huge point. It's not a layup anymore to know which TSR is in a player's bag. I think the 2 versus the 3 is it's kind of a fascinating development. Just really very low spinning, very high launching, extremely forgiving. Again, it sounds like we're on the Titleist payroll, but these are just all the boxes that a fairway wood is supposed to check, and the TSR2 really does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have one, and I've really enjoyed it. And the one thing that's amazing to me was that to kind of fit the gapping, it was high launching enough where, again, not being a really high ball hitter, I could play it and actually set the loft down a little bit to get a little more distance out of it without sacrificing being able to hit it high. And that just to fit the gapping, between driver and, either 7-wood or hybrid, whatever I was going to play next. It was kind of nice to have that ability because usually I can't take too many 3-woods and actually turn the loft down and still play them, especially in the 3-wood. And sound, feel, everything of that TSR2. It's just Titleist kind of nailed it with some fairways this year. They really did make some great ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think Titleist fairway woods have come a long way too. Like, I mean, if you go back 10 years, I don't think you'd see Titleist in the top 5 of any fairway woods list. I don't think. I mean, you had your Titleist diehard fans out there for sure, but I don't know in a GolfWRX Members Choice voting, I don't know how well Titleist fairway woods would rank. And here we are, we've got 2 different models in the top 5. So kudos to them on their belt.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, like always, I gotta say, when you look at this list, I mean, there's we'll just do top 5, but for you two, what was kind of the either the most shocking one that you didn't see on the list, or what do you think kind of got the biggest snub from the members voting?
Yeah, mine is the Standard Stealth 2. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. That one's getting a lot of play across all handicaps and ability levels. And that was one that, I think that one and the Stealth 2 Plus are kind of neck and neck. I think it's really a preference thing. And if you are the hardcore player that likes to tinker, then you might go with the Plus. And if you just kind of want something to throw in the bag that's going to do everything that you need it to do, then the Stealth 2 standard model is the one that's right for you. But I think they're both functional enough to work for, the masses. So that was kind of the one that I thought would be on here. But you know what? The Stealth 2 Plus is still a fantastic one as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mine was the ZX Mark II from Strix. We tested it back in January. Incredibly consistent spin numbers, really solid height, really solid distance. Really impressed. You see Strixon all over the Members Choice, surveys across the board. Really fantastic fairway wood.
That's funny because that was actually the one I was going to say was the ZX Mark II, because I was the same thing with you. I took it out and, had one. I just kind of took it to the range like, I'll just, hit it, see how it's like, and, talk about it on the show. And I was really impressed with how well it performed. And I guess I just didn't have the bar set that high, but it was, it hangs with anything out there right now. That ZX Mark II is really good. And I think the reason it's not on the list is probably not enough people have tried it. They probably walked into they probably walk into your store and they say they walk right by Strixon Woods, on the way to something else.
Yep.
Right. And then, you wonder when that, if in terms of popularity, if Srixon's going to catch up, because clearly, as we've discussed, even with the drivers, with the irons, I mean, the irons obviously test out pretty well and have voted on very well by the membership, but the products themselves are not lacking. They're not falling behind the more popular brands. So Srixon will be there, pretty soon, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I actually remember talking to, when we did Fitters Choice a while ago, talking to one of the fitters, and he said the Srixon, I mean, this was Woods, but he was like, I had a driver that I fit somebody into, and they were kind of almost disappointed that it ended up being a Srixon because they expected it to be a bigger, a TaylorMade, Callaway, whatever. And I'm like, I kind of get that. Somebody walks in, they're ready to spend their money and get this driver, and it's not what you'd expect. But yeah, that ZX Mark II, I think, is a big sleeper that people just haven't tried out yet. So definitely, if you're looking at it, go find the second swing video with the ZX Mark II fairway, because you'll be shocked at how well that thing really performs. So, all right, that is Fairway Woods, and now we'll move into hybrids. Which again, I mean, like we said with gapping, there's a lot of hybrids in play. A lot of people trying to figure out, long iron replacement, 5-wood replacement, whatever it is, and the hybrids have kind of come a long way as well. And we'll jump right in, number 5. We just talked about the Stealth 2 Plus, but the Stealth 2 Plus, which to me was kind of a little bit shocking. I thought, this here is a little more niche product. It's it's very small. It's deep faced. It's kind of aimed at that better player, that high launch, high speed player. And I've hit it. I really like it. I think it's a great hybrid. Off the tee, it's an absolute cannon. But how do you guys feel about the Stealth 2 Plus being on the list?
Yeah, exactly what you said was kind of my initial thought. It for as much as the Stealth 2 Plus Fairway Wood is kind of appealing to the masses and the adjustability and bringing that weight back and kind of give you that forgiveness and high MOI, you don't really have that with the Stealth 2 Plus Rescue Club. So it just seems like it's more tailored towards that kind of high speed or maybe high caliber player, which isn't a bad thing, right? For those players, it's an excellent golf club. And so I guess that maybe speaks to who was voting too, in the members at GolfWRX being a lot of really good players and avid players, and kind of the gearheads out there that are willing to tinker and willing to kind of dial things in as much as possible. But again, not at any means a shot at TaylorMade. I think it was just more of a surprise to see this one here, when I think the standard Stealth 2 Rescue seems like the more appealing for the masses club.
Yeah, it's a very, very low launch, low spinning. Kind of the feedback that I got was to really especially for those mid handicaps, you really need to optimize the shaft to get the height that you want. And kind of like you guys said, you have to work a bit harder to kind of fit those mid handicaps in. But for the low handicap, it's that kind of gorgeous sort of pear shaped face, and it kind of the exact kind of performance window that the low handicaps like.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that atom shape to it out on the toe and stuff like that. It kind of reminds you of the old, some of their old designs. And like I said, yeah, I don't knock it either. Like, I have one, and I think it's a great club. It's just, I was a little shocked to see that one make it. But and I love the adjustable hosels. For me, with hybrids, I love adjustable hosels just because you can kind of fine tune and tweak that launch and gap a little bit. Yeah. And with hybrid kind of lofts being all over and people saying, well, I need a 3 hybrid. Well, do you, or do you need a 20-degree hybrid, or do you need there's a lot of confusion there. And I like being able to give a fitter an option to kind of adjust a little bit of that loft or something like that they can really dial it in for that player in their bag.
Right. And more adjustability will always, put a smile on our fitters' faces. So, the fact that, that's a nice little touch that TaylorMade has with this.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then we move into another adjustable hybrid, the Callaway Paradigm, which for me personally, I loved the shape. When I first saw this, I wouldn't say I was worried, but I hadn't loved some of the Callaway hybrid shapes up until now. And then I saw the Paradigm and absolutely loved the shape of it. I thought the sound feel, they nailed all that. Again, adjustable hosels, great. And, something I played for a while as well, but really impressed with the Paradigm. And, I think anybody who's hit it probably has some good things to say about it.
Yeah, I'll just echo what I said about the Fairway Wood. I mean, they've continued to push the envelope with that AI and how they're using that to optimize club design, face design, and it's one of the best performers once again. All around performance in the hybrid, really hot too. I think I would argue potentially the hottest, highest ball speed numbers, across the face in this entire category here. I think if that was, if there was a voting for, speed distance for these hybrids, I think I'd put Paradigm them.
I'd be right there. I think very forgiving on low strikes. That was definitely one piece of feedback I had. I think that really there was some feedback that is a little wide for certain people, but I think it's a solid looking club. I'm kind of intrigued by when the utility wood came out, kind of seeing if it would start to cannibalize either the hybrid or the fairway wood. So it's really good to see that they're continuing to churn out really quality products kind of on both sides of that.
Yeah, and also too with the UW, I mean, as well with that, I think that's what you mentioned, the UW for the utility, because that was one that kind of slotted. Was it a hybrid? Was it a fairway? And I think it kind of would take over a little bit on both sides. But the Paradigm was, I mean, long. I kind of think about when they sent in like the media samples, it was a 21 degree, like a 4 hybrid, and that typically I'm like a 19 hybrid guy, but when I took it out of the course anyway, played it, and it was really impressive how long it was. It was not that much farther behind the 19 degree hybrids that I've been hitting previously. So definitely some firepower packed into that head.
For sure. And Callaway hasn't lacked in that department in any category, especially these kind of metals right here.
Yeah, definitely. And then we move into number 3. And kind of almost a pun, the TSR3 is back. So TSR3 comes in at number 3. Again, kind of a little more, kind of aimed at the lower handicap player, the better player. I remember playing TSI3, and it was kind of a tough one for me to get it. I needed a little more forgiveness, and I feel like the TSR3 again became a little bit more playable than the TSI version. Just a little bit easier. You could get away with a couple swings that I felt like TSI you got penalized for. But the TSR3 has been a really solid fairway.
Yeah.
Or I mean, a hybrid. Jeez.
That's the same feedback that we, have noticed from in fittings with customers and of, anywhere from probably mid-teens handicaps are putting that in the bag to obviously the, plus handicaps and pro players on tour, there's playability, but there's also versatility there, and obviously the forgiveness is a little bit better than the TSI3. So you're seeing more TSR3s winning in the fittings.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Titleist. If the TSR2 was the big brother, they told the TSR3, you need to be like your older brother. Like, you need to just be a little bit more, be like him. And I think you really see visually they're not super different. They're like we've kind of talked in the past. You wouldn't necessarily be able to pick which is which immediately.
Right.
But no, I think it's a beautifully looking club. Another kind of low launch, low spin, better player club. But that extra forgiveness it's a huge bonus.
I think if you set them down side by side, you could pick them out. But like if you were to grab one without, from a pack of hybrids from Titleist, and you're looking, this could be a TSR2, this could be a TSR3. I'm not really sure. So, which is I think a good thing for them, because I think there's a lot of players out there that have maybe a TSR2 in like a 18 degree or a 21 degree, and then they flip it with TSR3 in the other one. And so to kind of have them see a little bit seamless there is probably a good thing if they're trying to kind of blend those together.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I mean, because you're probably right when you look at somebody, if they're playing multiple hybrids and especially low loft, those 18s, you might go to the 2 just for a little higher launch, and then as you don't need as much help, you can go to the 3 and maybe have that little bit more adjustability or be able to work it a little bit more. That makes a lot of sense. Which again, why you should go get fit, because stuff like that isn't stuff you may think of yourself. So go have somebody who knows show you the ropes. That's right. You go check out your local second swing, and they'll be able to dial you in really well. And then number 2, like I think you mentioned the big brother, Titleist TSR2. There it is. I'm one of those people actually, like you said, they're very similar looking now, which I really like, because the previous TSI3, I didn't love the look as much. It was just almost maybe too compact, where the TSR2 had that little more roundness, a little more softness to it. And I like that they carried kind of that over into both hybrids this year. But TSR2, just easy to hit off the deck. It's one of those, I typically play my hybrids off the tee, but having that ability with a TSR2 that you can just set it down behind the ball in the fairway, know you're going to hit a high soft shot into a green, it does kind of give you a little bit more confidence than some other hybrids out there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. There's a confidence element. Again, really clean look, as all these TSR metals have. But then in terms of an all-around performer, I mentioned if I were to vote the ball speed and the distance, I'd go Paradigm. But if it was like all around performance, for the masses, I think TSR2 might be a winner because you get a little bit of workability. You get some. I mean, it's getting play on tour by a lot of players. But then you can still get, like you mentioned, the forgiveness, the high MOI, those properties that are really needed by a lot of players out there.
Definitely. If you're a player that likes that, kind of like you, Brian, that's kind of 17 to 19, 20 degree hybrid, this is such a great option. Super high launching, got that nice kind of middle spin. And like Drew mentioned, just gorgeous looking, slightly longer blade length than the TSR3. But like you guys mentioned, it's just a real great all around club.
Yeah, it's just kind of the jack of all trades. It does all. You can hit it off the tee, hit it off the deck. It's not pigeonholed again is something that you can only kind of do one thing or it only excels at one, which is nice because like me, I kind of play a little bit of both, but I like that you can do either one without losing confidence in the club that it's going to not perform as well.
Right.
And then we moved into the number one, which again I'm not shocked at this one at all. The Ping G430. Another great Ping products are always really good, but fairways and hybrids, it seems like they really excel at. They have a great audience for those. And the G430 is, like a lot of these, super easy to hit off the deck, launches high in the air, lands softly. It's just great for long shots into the green or even long par threes. But just an overall really good hybrid, and really they didn't really change a whole lot DNA wise. When you set it down, it still looks like a Ping. They didn't go to some different look, but it is a really, really forgiving, easy to hit option for players of a lot of abilities.
Yeah, I think we kind of have to touch on the number of votes, right, and the percentage on this.
The percent, yeah.
I mean, I think this was the highest. I think in terms of the clubs, TSR the highest percentage.
Yeah, TSR2 pulled around 15%, and then the Ping came in at 30.
At
30,
doubled number two. So that. To me, that says a lot of people are trusting Ping with the hybrid category. And G430, G425, G410, they've all delivered in the past. And so the G430, though, super stable, super forgiving. That's nothing new with Ping, but clearly they're pushing the envelope a little bit more and more. That these kind of MOI numbers are increasing every year because to get this much support from the member voting is impressive. I mean, to get that much more support from number one to number two is pretty incredible. So hats off to Ping.
It's pretty staggering the tour adoption and a club that can still do so well on the biggest stages in golf and also be so popular with the golfers at home. I mean, like everything you guys mentioned is true. So forgiving. The distance is so incredible. Mm-hmm. It's what else can you say? It's really an impressive showing from Ping.
Yeah, and it's of course got that shallow face, so something that you like there, Michael, just because it's so easy to hit off the deck, and yeah, I mean, I think with Ping with what they've done with just sound, feel, everything, they've brought in more kind of more viewers in a sense, of more golfers who are willing to try their stuff and hit it where before they might have been turned off by either a shaping or a sound thing or a feel thing, but yeah, they've just been. Like you mentioned, with all those other, previous hybrids, they've all been so popular, and people have really liked hitting them, and they just enjoyed a lot of performance out of the Ping hybrids. And Ping was smart; they didn't go crazy and do something totally wild. They kept they kept it what it was, and they just made those slight improvements, which Ping is known for. So, yeah, I'm not shocked that this one was really, really high on the list, if not, number one like it is.
Right. I mean, don't fix what's not broken, right? I mean, that's just. They made the adjustments they needed to improve it, and that's all they did, and it was obviously a really good result.
Yep. Now, of course, we got to get into what do you think? The biggest snub in the hybrid. What are you shocked not to see? I think one of you I know is going to say one of them because I think we already touched on it when we first got to number 5. But what are your guys' thoughts on ones that you're a little shocked that didn't make the list?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll go right there and go with the Stealth 2, the standard rescue.
Yep.
It just seems like it's been so playable. A lot of good response from the fitters that I've talked to at Second Swing, and sort of getting a gauge on what products are doing really well. And Stealth 2 Rescue has been one that they've always come right back and said, right away in the conversation. And so that tells me it's not only being asked for a lot by golfers, but it's also standing up to the test in the fittings. So. And then one I wanted to just throw in there is it's a niche product, I know, so it's not a surprise to not be on there, but the TSR1.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one, if you are that moderate swing speed, slow swing speed, you're maybe losing that ability to launch it off the deck. The TSR1 has been awesome for those players. And then I was looking at actually GolfWRX.com today, and I was looking at a what's in the bag, and I saw Matt Fitzpatrick is playing one.
Yeah. Oh wow!
So to see that, like the versatility is obviously very playable for those maybe lower or moderate swing speed, but then also to see it played in the bag of one of the best players in the world. So I wanted to give a nod to the TSR1 there too.
I like that.
One that jumped out to me, especially given the kind of I don't know if it's the surprising performance, but the fact that there was the TSR3 and the Stealth 2 Plus, two real kind of better player clubs. For me, the Apex Pro is a very, you talk about for a good player, it's very iron-like profile, very low spinning, very low launching, super penetrating flight. I wouldn't normally probably have put it in my big snubs, but seeing these players hybrids on here, that's one that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I think it's almost because it's been around so long. We may see a new one sometime here shortly or whatever. We don't know what the next Apex kind of release will be, but we've seen the Pro stuff, but we haven't seen anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe it's just one of those age things where you walk in, you kind of forget it's there with all the other shiny brand new stuff, and you just kind of walk by it. And then mine is it is actually the Cobra King Tech. I played the previous gen version and absolutely loved it. And I think it's one of those that if you're willing to tinker with the weights, move some weight out to the toe, all that, it can be very anti-left. It's still easy to launch in the air. I think the shape of it looks really good. It's, it's round, but it's not too big and too bulbous. And I think it's just one that, if you're somebody who really wants to take away that left side, I think it's definitely worth giving a try and slide some weights around and mess around. A lot of adjustability to it.
Yeah, I need to add some support to the King Techs as well because, our friend Kevin Kraft, who has been on the YouTube channel, if you don't know who he is, he just won the Pennsylvania State Open, and he's got 2 King Tech hybrids in the bag, a 2 hybrid and a 4 hybrid. So I got to give more support for those. Really good performers there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there was always people I remember asking me, like, oh, what kind of an anti-left hybrid? And I was like, King Tech. People are like, what? And you're like, yeah, trust me, it kind of flies under the radar there with so many other great hybrids. But that one there, and then I'm gonna throw in a little honorable mention. The new Mizuno STZ that 230 is really actually a good hybrid. I've been playing a little bit of that sneakily, and it's a little deeper face, so off the deck you can get a little intimidated sometimes. But off the tee and just in general, just a really great shape. I think Mizuno nailed the shape, and it plays great off the tee. It's a really, really good fairway finder.
Yeah, I think in terms of the shape thing, it's like hybrids are one of the, I think it seems like a really a fickle thing among golfers is the shape of a hybrid, especially because of how many shots are hit off the deck. And we might be talking about deep face and shallow face in this conversation, but really you won't actually know what you like in any of these hybrids. Yeah. You get one and set it down and see what it looks like with the ball resting right next to it. And so it's such a nuanced conversation that we can have about what these designs look like and stuff. But I know in my experience with hybrids, I got to set it down and I got to see it. And then I think, okay, this one looks good to me.
Yep. I'm kind of with you on that. There's certain hybrids I set down and I don't love the look, and it's tough to hit a club that you don't like the look of. It's tough to hit it well, and I know that's dumb, but it does. You got to have that confidence in a club that you like the shape, the size, whatever it is. You got to like what you're looking at to hit it well. I feel like, or else, you just kind of struggle with it.
Right.
So
I'll go with one more analogy here from our friend Larry Bobka. He said,
okay.
He goes, it's kind of like buying a car. When you're getting a new car, let's say you get a blue car, but you hate blue. So every day you walk in, maybe your garage, you get a blue car there. Right away, every day you're starting your day with a terrible thought in your mind because you hate the color blue. So it's a little bit like that with clubs. You got to make sure you like what you're looking at before every shot.
I like that. That's true. Because the rest of your day you're driving in a blue car. You thought about a blue car. I get it. That's Larry has infinite wisdom. So
I know he could talk golf clubs for an 8-hour podcast.
Yeah. Every time we've had him on, we basically have to forcefully cut it off. It's done. Okay, we got to be done because we can go forever.
1 hour, but you budget for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then also we have to ask what in the bag between driver and iron. What do you guys got in the bags in terms of fairways, hybrids? What are you playing right now?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I picked up a G425 LST a couple years ago, and I think it's my favorite club in the bag. I love hitting that thing. As I've realized, the optimal choice for me in many cases is to hit 3-wood instead of driver on a lot of holes that I play. I've used it a lot off the tee, and it's been awesome. And then I do have now an I crossover 3-iron as well for ping. So it's kind of a double combo of ping there in between, with the TaylorMade Sim 2 driver. So a lot of those clubs with my speed are a lot more off the tee clubs, but either way, I love both.
Love it.
Yeah, and I actually, this is actually the most recent change in my bag. I have to finally fly the flag at half mast for my Nike VR Pro. Recently, I was retired after a great life. So I tuned up my Titleist 915F 3-wood to 16.5 degrees, and so that's my only kind of a 4-wood, and then I go right to 3-iron.
Wow. Okay, so going a little old school at the top end of the bag. I like it.
Unless maybe it's still in the bag. I believe JT had been playing a 915 up until maybe the TSR series.
I think Cantlay also played a long time. Yeah.
So that's one of those categories, right? With tour players, you see a lot of guys sticking with the same one forever. I believe it was until Scotty signed with TaylorMade, he was using a
VR. Yeah, me and Scotty, one in the
That's
same.
right. the what's in the bags, those Nike VR Pros and VR Pro Limited or VR Limiteds and stuff like that, they do still pop up from time to time, but now we're getting to the age where a lot of those guys are just starting to wear them out, and they're starting to kind of like crack the faces, and they're just getting exactly, you can't find them. So so those things there are now finally starting to get phased out, but those were a decent amount in bags that ran for a while, but now we're starting to kind of see the end of it, unfortunately. Myself, I'm going Paradigm Triple Diamond 3-wood, and then I play a Ping G430 Max 7-wood that's turned down and flat, and then I also have an I crossover 4-iron. So I guess if you're throwing that in there, I go the 4-iron with the I crossover, and then so I kind of got a little Callaway, a little Ping, but they've worked out really well so far this year. And I'm going to say the 7-wood I started with the PXG 2 years ago. I thought I was going to get rid of the 7-wood this year, and then I hit the Ping, and now it's back in, and I'm kind of hooked on the 7-wood. So it's
like you got a plan, and then you hit a club. It just takes one club to hit that you love, and your plan changes.
I know. So yeah, I've been sticking with the 7-wood. So it's been really good. I've been a fan of the high lofted fairways. So, all right. Well, that was Members 2023 GolfWRX Members Choice Best Fairway, Best Iron, or Best Fairway, Best Hybrid, brought to you by Second Swing. Gentlemen, thank you again for the time. This has been awesome. I love getting your guys' kind of thoughts, expertise, all that on all these clubs. It's always awesome, and it's been a ton of fun talking with you guys and sharing this time.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brian, and shout out to the members of GolfWRX. It's a pretty fun community, and the engagement on this stuff is awesome. So, we're looking forward to 2024 already.
Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.